Okay. Um, Good evening, and we are going to start chapter 3. Okay, so I am going to go through chapter 3. Again, what you need to know to do well on your Connect assignments and on your tests. And I'm going to focus in on what is important. And once again, we're going to look at our textbook, chapter 3. We're going to go by in order. And we're going to look at comunicación, communication, vocabulario, vocabulary, and then estructura, structure or grammar. Those are the three sections that you need to focus on, okay? And I'm going to focus on the important part. There are other exercises and things that you can do on your own. Uh, some of you may be totally new to Spanish, so you should spend a little extra time going through the exercises. I'm going to go to the most important things, though, in communication, vocabulary, and grammar. Okay, so chapter 3 um, starts out on page 66, and there's a question there, ¿Qué haces? ¿Qué haces? And that basically is asking us, what are you doing? Hacer is the verb to do or make. Okay, so let's move on. So in this chapter, let's take a look at comunicación. What do they want us to be able to communicate? So we're going to be talking in this chapter, we're going to be learning more in vocabulary about our daily routine, daily activities we engage in. And we're going to want to know when we engage in them, what time of the day, at 5 o'clock, 5:30, and in the morning, in the evenings, and maybe what day of the week, on Mondays, on Wednesday, on Wednesday at 7. So we need to be able to talk about things we do, like work or study, when we do it on Monday at 7, and just be able to describe that. And that's what we're going to learn in this chapter. So first of all, they want to teach us about um, uh, they want to teach us how to get somebody's attention. Okay, we're going to learn about the time. So if you want to get somebody's attention to ask for the time, how do you do it? Okay, and so we'll go right down here on page 67, and at the bottom of page 67, there's a diagram and a little box. Okay, so um, the go back to the top of the page real quickly. You see the words disculpa, ¿qué hora es? So disculpa means excuse me, okay, or pardon me. ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? Okay. Okay, so how would you stop somebody and politely ask, what time is it? Okay, so, and there's a little graphic here. The gentleman there on the left says, disculpe, ¿qué hora es? Excuse me, what time is it? And then the young lady gives the time, son las dos. It's 2 o'clock. So we need to be able to understand that and be able to do this. Here's another one. Uh, she wakes up, oye. Um, so, ¿qué hora es? So, like, basically, oye could be, again, like, excuse me, ¿qué hora es? What time is it? Oye really means listen, but it can be used as excuse me, what time is it? And then again, he gives the time, son las 6:30, it's 6:30. Okay. So let's look at the box here for a little better discussion of what they want you to know. Uh, so when you want to interrupt somebody and ask them for the time, okay, you want to stop somebody and get their attention. Let's put it that way. You want to get someone's attention. If you want to get someone's attention before asking a question, use the verb disculpar. Okay, excuse me. Okay, excuse me is disculpar is to excuse, or oír, listen to me. Okay, so now we know that there's two forms of you in Spanish. Now this is going to be on your exam. This is going to be on your exam. So there's two forms of um, you in Spanish. Okay, uh, and so. Um, there's two forms of you in Spanish. So you might want to use the familiar you form two, and you should all know this by now. We learned it in chapter one. We've seen it again in chapter two. So if with friends and family you use to, with somebody you don't know, okay, you'll use just out of politeness, you'll use the usted form, and they give us the two forms. So make sure you're aware of that because on your exam, they might put you in a to situation where you're using friends, talking to friends and family, or they might put you in a more formal situation where you need to use usted. So just be aware of this, and that's why I'm spending a little extra time on this. So if you want to use the to form, say you want to ask someone in your family, what time is it? You could say disculpa or oye. Okay. Di- Now, if it's somebody that you don't know and you want to be a little more formal, you would use the usted form, disculpe or oiga. Okay, oiga. So I want you to be aware of that. Okay. Now, finally, there's a third U in Spanish. We really haven't talked about it. The book introduces it here now a little more clearly than we really haven't worked with it much. What if you are talking to a bunch of people, like you're calling out to your classmates? Hey, what time is it? You all. Okay. So if it's a plural you, and you got to be aware of this on your test, it, then you would use disculpen. Or if you want to use oír, you'll use oigan. Okay, notice the ending is a plural ending because you're using ustedes. Now, how would you ask somebody what time is it? There it is. ¿Qué hora es? That's how we ask the time. That's pretty much the only way to ask the time in Spanish is ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? Literally, what hour is it? Okay. And in this case, they give the time son las cinco. All right, it's 5 o'clock. Now, um, we want to learn here how to tell the time in Spanish. To tell the time in Spanish, we have to use the verb ser. Okay, it is. We're using ser, not a star, but it is. So we're going to use ser. Okay, and then if it's 1 o'clock, we would say es la una. Okay. Okay. S means it is. And then 1 o'clock is la una. Notice that one here is feminine. Okay. And we have to use the definite article before the number. We don't say in English the one, but in Spanish we have to say it is the one. Which the do we use? We use la. Time is always feminine. So it's es la una. Everybody see that? And it's because we're basically saying es la una hora, and hora is feminine. We all learned about gender, and so hora is really what we're referring to. It's feminine and singular. So es la una means it's 1 o'clock. Now, after 1 o'clock, from 2 o'clock to 12 o'clock, if somebody asks you, ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? This is how you respond. You don't respond with S. You respond with son, S-O-N. Why son? Because you're talking about the hours. And so you're going to say they are. Ellas son. But nobody says ellas son. They just say son. All right? So we say son. Now we give the time. So we know how to count from 1 to 12. So now we know the hours on the clock. So we have to use the definite article whenever we give the time and we put it before the numeral. So we would literally say it is the two, it is the three, it is the four. So let's watch how we do it. Son las dos. Notice that the is feminine because it's las dos horas. Son las tres. And it's again las tres. Son las cuatro. 5 o'clock would be son las cinco. 8 o'clock would be son las ocho. All the way to 12 o'clock, son las doce. This is very simple. You can go through it and just make sure that you do this correctly. So for 1 o'clock, we use es, la una. For all other times from 2 to 12, we use son, las, and then the number. Got it. Okay. Let me see. So they're giving us some more examples here. So say you want to stop and ask somebody the time and you are familiar with them, they're friends or family. You could say, disculpa, ¿qué hora es? And then they might respond, son las tres. Son las tres means it's 3 o'clock. That's what son las tres means. Or if you want to use the formal form of disculpar, you would say, and you want to use the step form, it would be disculpe, ¿qué hora es? And here it is, es la una, it's 1 o'clock. All right. Now, please learn these, spend some time with them. How do you say 12 o'clock? How do you say noon, 12 noon? You can say noon either this way, es mediodía. Literally, it's half day. Es mediodía means it's noon. Or you could say it's 12 o'clock noon. So you would use son las doce. Son las doce. And then to make sure that people know that it's noon, you would say son las doce del día. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Midnight. Midnight is medianoche. Again, noche is night. Media is half night. So midnight is medianoche. So es medianoche means it's midnight, or you could say it's 12 at, in at night, which is it's 12. Midnight would be son las doce de la noche. So son las doce de la noche means it's 12 midnight. Son las doce del día means it's noon. Okay. How do you say half past or 30, like 5:30, 6:30, or half past 6? You add on the phrase e media. E, the Y, it means e and it means and. Media means half. Okay. Or you could say e 30 and 30. Okay. So, for example, it is 1:30 would be es la una y media. Or you could say es la una y 30. You just add on the minutes. Okay. How would you say quarter past? Okay. You could say a quarter hour, add on a quarter hour, y cuarto, or add on 15 minutes, y quince. You could say it either way. So it's quarter past, or it's 15 minutes after, you would do it this way. So let's say it's 2:15, or it's quarter past 2. You would say son las dos, and then add it on, y cuarto, or son las dos y quince, add on the minutes. Okay. For times after the half hour, it is common to use menos or para. Okay. So, all right, let's say that it's past the half hour. Now it is 8:50. Okay, it's not 8:30. Now we're going past the 30 mark. You could say son las 8:50. You just add on the minutes to the hour. So if it's 8:50, you would say son las 8:50. Let's say that it is 11:40. It's 11 o'clock and 40 minutes. You would say son las 11:40. You just add on the minutes. But they're also telling you there's another way to do it. Whenever you're past the 30-minute mark, you can use menos. So you round up to the next hour and you subtract the amount of minutes. So son las 8:50, it's 8:50, but, or I could say 8:50, I could round up to 9 minus 10, take away 10. So you could also say son las 9:10. So son las 9:10. It's 9 minus 10 minutes is the same as 8 o'clock at 8:50. Okay. And then finally, you could also say, you could round up to the next hour and say son 10 para las 9. Don't worry so much about the last one, but the first two are a better way to describe the time. Okay, so look through some of these time exercises and make sure you feel comfortable answering the question ¿Qué hora es? ¿Es la una or son las dos, las tres, las ocho? And then be able to say 8:15, las 8:15 o las 8:15, 8:30, las 8:30 or las 8:30. Make sure that you can do that. Make sure you can say 8:45, son las 8:45 or las 9:15. All right, here's some time phrases they want you to know about. Because in this unit, you're going to be talking about things you like to do and when you like to do them. So if you like to do things in the morning, I'm sorry. So if you want to say AM or PM, if you want to say 8 in the morning, if you want to say it is 8 in the morning, you would say son las 8 de la mañana. De la mañana means in the morning. You could also say en la mañana, but de la mañana is used more. If you want to say 8 p.m., then you would say son las 8 de la noche. Okay, de la noche, noche meaning night. And then if it's in the afternoon, between noon and 6, it's de la tarde. So if it's 4 in the afternoon, son las 4 de la tarde. De la madrugada, you could use it. It's real early in the morning, but you don't have to distinguish, but you can. So, for example, if it's 4 in the morning, son las 4 de la madrugada. Okay, so make sure you're familiar with those phrases. Make sure you can tell the time digitally. Okay. Now, on page 69, please look at the box. It says a qué hora. You need to know this, a qué hora. Notice qué hora es is a question. What time is it? But a qué hora is a different question. Okay? Okay. It wants to know. You're asking here now. You're not asking what time is it right now. You're asking at what time is an event. Do you see that? Asking at what time an event occurs. So if on your test they ask you at what time an event occurs, they're going to use a qué hora. If they want to know what time it is right now on the clock, they'll ask qué hora es. Make sure you see the distinction. So a qué hora, a there means at what time is the event. So let's take a look at this box on page 69. To ask at what time something happens, you ask a qué hora. So you might ask a qué hora. They might say there's a class tomorrow. You're going to ask a qué hora. They might ask there's a party at Brenda's house on the weekend. You're going to ask a qué hora because it's an event. At what time is that party? At what time is that class? You might say, I have work early tomorrow. And they might ask you, ¿a qué hora? At what time? So you want to know when does the event occur. So whenever somebody asks you an a que hora question, how do you answer back? So you want to say, you're going to answer back with the time that the event occurs. So if the event occurs at, you have to answer back with an at. A means at. All right. And then you put in the time, whatever the time is. So you have to have the definite article, la or las, and then the number. Again, in Spanish, time is always given as the one, the five, the 10. And the is either la for one, una, or las for all of the other numbers because they're plural. So somebody asks you what time, a qué hora, and it's at, let's say the event is at 1, you would say a la una. If the event is, say, somebody asks you, what time are you working tomorrow? You would say, you know, you would answer back, and then you would give the time. If it's at 2:30, you would say a las 2:30. All right. And if you have, someone says, when is the class? Okay, a qué hora? A qué hora? You answer back with the at. And if it's at 3, uh, uh, if it's at 2:45, you would say a las 3:45. All right. And if, let's say, the class is at 5:04, you would say, ¿A qué hora es la clase? And you would answer back, a las 4:05, at 5:04. And here's an example. ¿A qué hora es la clase español? And then they answer back, es a las 10. It is at 10 o'clock. Please look at this exercise and make sure you understand it. Because on the exam, they're going to ask you, what time is it right now? Or they might ask you, when is the class? When do you go into work? The second is an a que hora class, and it must be answered back with a and then the time. Okay. All right, here are some good vocabulary for this chapter. In this chapter, you're going to be talking about things you like to do, as I told you, when you like to do them. So you might be talking a little bit about your daily schedule. So the word for schedule is el horario. This means your daily schedule. Una vez means once. Dos veces means twice. Siempre means always. So some good vocabulary. Look at some of the questions that come after, and let's move on. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and then look at these a que hora questions that they ask you and make sure you feel comfortable answering them. Okay. Okay. Um, let's see. And again, you'll see some good questions and exercises to do on page 69 and 70. Again, answering the question, ¿A qué hora es? Or ¿A qué hora empieza? Look at D here on page 70. It says, ¿A qué hora abre? ¿A qué hora cierra? Again, you're just learning this vocabulary, but abre is from the verb abrir, to open. So here they're asking, ¿A qué hora abre? At what time does it open? We don't know what it is. They haven't said. Cierra means to close. At what time does it close? Okay. So they're asking you, when does the business open or when does it close? Again, you ask the question with ¿A qué hora? And you answer back with ¿A? And then the number. So here it says, ¿A qué hora abre la panadería? What time does the bakery open? And the answer is a las 6:30. So you have to put a and then the time. So you have to put the definite article las and then 6:30 at 6:30. You can't say a 6:30. You have to say at the 6:30. And the will always be las. It's always feminine and plural for numbers greater than one. Say the bakery opened at 1 o'clock, you would say a la una or a la 1:30. So take a look at those and make sure you feel comfortable with those questions. Now let's go to the vocabulary. Vocabulary is on page 72. And the question here, it talks about your rutina diaria, and it's exactly what it looks like, your daily routine. So it's asking, ¿Cómo es? What is your what is your daily routine like? Describe your daily routine. What is your daily routine like? How is it? So you're going to need to be able to write a small paragraph on your test. Again, many of you still are some of you are failing to write the paragraph you're asked to do at the end of each test. Again, make sure you do it in Spanish. And by now, you should have enough vocabulary to put together 5, 6, 7 sentences on what you do during the week or on any particular day. So take a look at these pictures here, and they're giving you some activities. We're just learning Spanish. So now is the time to look at some of the activities and learn some verbs. So here they're playing soccer, okay, jugar fútbol. Here they are, they might be having dinner, cenar, okay. Here he's talking on a phone, hablar por teléfono. Here she's working. It looks like she's at work down here in number 4. The verb to work is trabajar. Okay, you should start to use it. And here we have a student again. He might be studying or whatever, or he's in class, estar en clase. Here's one where the young man is reading, leer. Okay, so now here we have this couple in 7. They're watching TV, mirar la televisión or ver la televisión. So let's take a look right beneath. And please look over these different activities and be able to use some of these, okay? So to watch television would be mirar or ver la televisión, okay? Oh, to attend class, asistir a clase. To attend classes, asistir a clase. To play football, we haven't learned the verb yet to play, but we could say practice. Practicar el fútbol, to practice soccer. Leer is to read. Hablar por teléfono. Estudiar en la biblioteca. To work. Trabajar, and the J is pronounced like an H. To eat. Comer. Comer con la familia or cenar, to have dinner. And cantar. Cantar en el coro, to sing. So they give you some activities that you can talk about, things you like to do. Okay. Here's some eating activities. Again, they give us more activities on page 73. Please look through these. Desayunar is to have breakfast. Almorzar is to have lunch. Comer to eat. Cenar to have dinner. Please look at these. Here's some more activities. Again, on page 73. You need to spend time and learn these. Bailar is to dance. To go to the beach. Ir, we had already, is to go. A la playa. Ir is always followed by a. To go to the beach. La playa is the beach. Ir al cine, to go to the movies. Literally, the cine is the cinema. Ir a el, remember, contracts to al, ir al cine. To go shopping, ir de compras. Great activity to talk about. Correr is to run. Practicar yoga. Montar a caballo is to ride a horse, go horseback riding. And there's jugar basketball. Nadar, to swim. So look through some of these activities because you're going to be asked to talk about a few things you like to do. All right. Let's see. Um, okay. Now, um, in addition, uh, okay, let's see. Here's a little box at the top of page 75. Okay. Again, if you're talking about your daily routine, you might want to say, I like to do such a, thus and such in the morning. That would be por la mañana. Por la mañana, me gusta desayunar. In the morning, I like to have breakfast. Por la mañana. Por la tarde, me gusta estudiar. In the afternoon, I like to study. Por la noche me gusta mirar la televisión. O por la noche yo miro o yo veo la televisión. Okay, so you're gonna, those are great phrases to use when you're describing activities you like to do during the day. Okay, um, so again, please look at this section 74, 75, some of these exercises as people describe their daily routines and things they like to do because you're going to have to do it. Okay. And let's see. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. This is very important. And this is on page 76. Not only are you going to have to be able to tell us at what time you do something, so you might want to say, I study at 7 o'clock, okay? Or I like to study at 7 o'clock. Me gusta estudiar a las siete. Or I like to eat at 5:30. Me gusta comer a las 5:30 o las 5:30. Okay, but we also want to know what day of the week do you like to do the activity or on what, so how do you do that? Okay, so um, the weekdays, okay, are or entre semana. The weekdays would be Monday, lunes, martes, Tuesday, miércoles, Wednesday, jueves. The J is pronounced like an H, and viernes, Friday. Those are your weekdays. They are never capitalized in Spanish unless you begin a sentence with them. In English, we always capitalize them, but not in Spanish. The word for weekend is el fin de semana. Semana means week. El fin de semana means literally the end of the week, the weekend, el fin de semana. The weekdays, the weekend days are Saturday, which is sábado, and Sunday, domingo. So now you know the days of the week. Now, how would you say on Monday, I study? You use the definite article with the day of the week. And all of the days of the week are masculine, so you're going to use the word el. Remember, for time, we used la una, or las dos, or las tres. This time, for the days of the week, we use el. It's because the days of the week are masculine. So on Monday is el lunes. On Monday, I study. El lunes, yo estudio. On Tuesday, el martes, I work. Okay, so on Tuesday I work. El martes, yo trabajo. On Wednesday, I watch TV. El miércoles, yo veo o yo miro la televisión. You see how this works? That's it. Let's look at the sentence here. They're using the verb tener, an irregular verb we learned last time. Tengo un examen el lunes. I have an exam on Monday. That's how you say it. I have an exam on Saturday. So you had a Saturday class. Tengo un examen el sábado. Or maybe you have a party. Tengo una fiesta. Okay. El sábado uh, uh, Saturday. Okay, now what about if how would we say on Mondays, on Tuesdays, on Sundays? You use the plural definite article, the plural masculine. So los lunes, los martes, los miércoles. So if it's something you do reoccurringly, okay, on Mondays, on Tuesdays, you say los lunes. Los lunes yo trabajo. On Mondays I work. Los martes yo estudio. On Tuesdays I study. Okay? So please make sure you feel comfortable with that. Okay? El and the day of the week and los and the day of the week, describing when you do something. And there's a few exercises that follow that. Okay. Now we can jump to page 77, and page 77 is estructura, grammar, grammar. So let's take a look at our grammar. And we want to learn how to conjugate verbs in the present tense. That's what this is about. It's very basic. Okay. So they give you some examples with different verbs, but we're going to jump ahead to the bottom there of page 77, and we're going to go to actividades analíticas. Please look at this, read through this, and what they want us to do is to learn how to conjugate verbs in the present tense, okay? And in Spanish, verbs have endings, okay? And we have to learn that present tense endings, and that's what they're teaching us. And right now, we're only gonna look at the singular conjugations. In other words, we're going to look at the singular subject pronouns. We learned the subject pronouns way back in chapter 1. I, yo, you, familiar, tú, and then he, él, she, ella, and then you, formal, usted. Those are your subject pronouns. They're singular, okay? I, you familiar, he, she, and usted. So how do I conjugate verbs in Spanish? What are the endings? What do I do? We'll learn now. In Spanish, verbs either end in AR, see, trabajar, or they end in ER, leer, or they end in IR, vivir. In English, a verb can end in anything. In Spanish, they're either AR, ER, or IR. This is really basic, and you've got to understand it. It's very basic, and it makes this very simple. And the AR, ER, and IR form of the verb is the unconjugated form. In English, that would be the to form of the verb. It's called the infinitive, the verb infinitive. So, for example, the verb to be, it's to be, okay? But when I go to conjugate it, it's I go, you go, he goes. So it changes its form, okay? But the to form is to be, okay? So, and now in Spanish, the to form will either be, the verb will be left end in AR, ER, or IR. So how do we conjugate verbs that end in AR? We drop the AR ending, okay? And that gives us the stem. So I don't care whatever verb you have, hablar, trabajar, okay, estar, you drop the AR ending. And then, so we would get trabaj, Trabaj. And there it is. So it would be yo trabaja, tú trabajas, él trabaja. And then we put our endings on. Okay. So for yo, we put the O ending on the traba stem, and it's yo trabajo. For two, we put an AS ending. Whenever you see an S in the ending, you know it's the to form. So on your exams, if they're asking you questions or they're putting the AS ending or there's an S in the conjugation, you know they have the to form. So we take the stem of the verb to conjugate it for two. It's trabaj, Trabaj, and we put an AS ending on. And then for él and ella and usted, we put an A ending. Trabaja. Trabaja. So él trabaja. So it would be yo trabajo, O ending. Tú would have an AS ending. Tú trabajas, AS ending. And él would have a trabaja ending. Again, I don't know why your book doesn't fill them in the chart here, but they want you to go up above and do that, but I'm giving them to you now. Now let's look at verbs that end in ER and IR. Leer, good verb to know, to read. Vivir, to live. The good thing about these conjugations is they have the same endings. But how do we conjugate ER and IR verbs? You drop the ER and the IR endings, and you get the stem of the verb. And then you add your endings onto the stem. And again, the endings you add onto the stem depend upon the subject pronoun. So for yo, we add an O. We add an O. So the stem of leer is le, L-E, and we add an O, so it's yo leo. I am reading. I read. For two, we're going to add on an ES. There's that S ending. So it would be tú lees. L-E-E-S. We had an ES ending on. Tú lees. And then for el, ella, and usted, again, the stem is le, L-E, and we add on an E. El le. Usted le. Finally, vivir. We drop the IR and we get the stem. And the endings are exactly the same for ER as for IR verbs. So it's yo vivo. For tú, we add an ES ending, tú vives. And for él, ella, and usted, it's vive. We add an E ending on it. And basically, that's it in a nutshell. Um, and so look through this section. So let's look at number 2. Verbs like these, the ones above, are seen as regular verbs because their conjugations are regular and predictable, okay? All right. And let me see. The rest of the verb form is known as the root or stem. Again, so you need to know how to form the stem when you're conjugating. If it's an AR verb, drop the AR. If it's an ER verb, drop the ER. If it's an IR verb, you drop the IR, and you put on those endings according to what the subject pronoun is. Okay, let's see. And they give you some verbs down here. Leer, to read, correr, to run, comprar, to buy, usar is what it looks like, to use, cantar, to sing, and asistir, to attend. They're either ER, AR, or IR verbs. Drop either the ER, AR, or IR, get the stem, and then depending upon what the subject pronoun is, you add the ending on. Let's go ahead and do leer. So the stem of leer is le, L-E. The ending that goes with yo in the present tense is always O. So it's yo leo. Look at ella. The verb is correr. It means to run. What is the stem? We drop the ER, so it will be cor. Okay, what's the ending? It will be an E ending. Okay, so ella corre. Look at comprar. Here's an AR verb. We want to get the stem. It's compr. So how would we conjugate the usted form? Well, we get this the stem. Usted compr. What's the ending? It's going to be an A. All right. Usar. Again, what is the stem? We drop the air. It's us. So it's tu us. What's the ending? AS. As. The two has the S in the ending. So tu usas. All right. Let's take a look at asistir. The stem, we drop the IR of asistir. We get assist. So how do we conjugate? It's to assist. What's the ending? It's es. IR verbs have e's in them in the endings, and it's to form, so it's es. Tú asistes. Okay. Let's go through some of those exercises there and make sure you feel comfortable conjugating AR, ER, and IR verbs. Okay. Get the stem and make sure you're familiar with the endings. Make sure you feel comfortable. Okay. Look through those exercises. There's a lot of vocabulary, a lot of verbs, and do, okay, let's see. Let me see and make sure. Okay, let's see 3.2. All right. All right. Now let's jump ahead to the next section in grammar. Now we're going to learn how to conjugate the plural subject pronouns. Okay. All right. So we learned yo, tú, él, ella, and usted. Now we want to learn how do we conjugate verbs in the present tense with nosotros and ellos and ustedes. Forget about vosotros. It is not used anywhere in the Spanish-speaking world except for Spain and very, very limited anywhere else in the Spanish-speaking world. Instead of vosotros, ustedes is used. You all is the way we. So we're not going to worry about vosotros. So now, if we come to page 81, and we want to look at actividades analíticas. And so we're going to again learn how to conjugate AR, ER, and IR verbs in the present tense, but now with the plural subject pronouns. Nosotros, ellos, and ustedes. Okay. All right. So let's see how we do this. Again, they want you to go up above and find the answers, but I'll just give them to you now. So let's look at an AR verb, cenar, to have dinner. So we want to do nosotros. How do we do that? We get the stem of the verb. What's the stem of cenar? We drop the R. It's sen. So it's nosotros sen. What is the ending for an AR verb with nosotros? It's amos. Amos, A-M-O-S. So nosotros cenamos. For any AR verb, hablar, nosotros hablamos. Okay, usar, nosotros usamos. Just learn them. They're very easy, but just get used to it. Okay, now let's jump to the ellos form, the they form or the ustedes form. They're the same. So this makes it a lot easier. Again, if we want to say we eat dinner, we got to get, so cenar, we got to get the stem is sen. So ellos cen, and then what is the ending? It's an, A-N. So ellos cenan, ustedes cenan. Okay, what about hablar? Ellos hablan. Okay, ustedes hablan. Usar, ellos usan. Okay, ustedes usan. A-N is the ending we put on. Very simple. Okay, what about ER and IR verbs? Again, they're going to have the exact same endings in the plural. We have to learn what they are. So it's so let's do comer, to eat. We want to say we eat. We get the stem is com. We drop the ER. So nosotros comemos. Comemos. E-M-O-S. Okay, E-M-O-S. So for ER verbs in the present tense, it's E-M-O-S is the ending for nosotros. And what about ellos? It's going to be E-N. So they eat is ellos comen, E-N. That's it. What about IR verbs? the ending for nosotros now will be IMOS. So it is different from between ER and IR verbs are different for nosotros, plural. So it's going to be the verb is vivir, to live. So I want to say we live. So I have to get the stem. Nosotros vive. And now I put imos on the end. Okay. And then finally, they live. It's going to be the stem vive, ellos vive, en. So those are the conjugations. Make sure that you can do them. Okay. And now I like this diagram here. Maybe you should put a star around it because your book sometimes is a little disjointed when it provides grammar. Here are all of the endings that you need for AR verbs and ER and IR verbs in the present tense. So, so let's take a look. Okay, so um, yo, you take the stem and you put on an O. Okay, for AR verbs, you take the stem and put on an AS. For ER and IR verbs, you take the stem and put on an ES. What about LA and usted? For AR verbs, you take the stem and put on an A, and for ER and IR verbs, you put on an E. There's your key right there. Okay, very good. So, and then they do some examples for you. Yo trabajo, yo leo, yo vivo. Okay, tú trabajas, tú lees, tú vives. Okay. And then they do the nosotros and or the plural forms nosotros and ellos. That's all that interests us here. So for AR verbs, we get the stem of the verb and we add on amos. Okay. For ER verbs, we get the stem of the verb and put on emos, E-M-O-S. And for IR verbs, we take the stem of the verb and put on imos, I-M-O-S. And then what about ustedes and ellos? If it's an AR verb, we put an AN ending. If it's an ER-IR verb, we put on an EN ending. So this chart is kind of an encapsulation. It's on page 82, number 2. And it basically that is how those are the endings, the magical endings that you have to add onto the stems, depending upon your subject pronoun, whether it's yo or nosotros or tú. Does everybody see that? It's very simple. Very simple. Okay. And they give you a bunch of exercises to do there. Okay, let's see. And let me see what else we have here. Okay. Okay, let's go now to page 86. Okay, so we want to go to page 86. And we're going to do one last type of verb. One last type of verb. The verbs we just did were called regular verbs. Uh, and now we're going to do stem changing verbs. Okay, we're going to do stem changing verbs. And notice what happens here. When we use these verbs, we've got to get the stem. We have to drop the AR, ER, and IR of the infinitive. But now there's going to be a change in that stem. And that's what you have to pay attention to. Okay. So let's take a look at what the verbs. So we're going to learn one type of stem changing verbs. These are verbs, and there's not that many. So there's basically, I think we're going to learn about 3 or 4. These are verbs that have an O in them, like poder, and it's an ER, to be able to, poder, or Another one would be dormir, to sleep. Or another one could be almorzar, to have lunch, and or soñar, to dream. All of those verbs I just gave you have an O in them. But the O in these verbs is unique because there's going to be a change in that O when you form the stem. The O will go to UE. So let's take a look here. They give you some examples of these verbs. And let's go right to actividades analíticas on page 87. Please look through this and please know these 3 or 4 verbs they give you and how to conjugate them in the present tense. You're going to need to get the stem and make the stem change in the stem. And then you're going to put on the endings. The endings we already know because these verbs have regular endings. AR verbs have their set of endings. ER and IR verbs have their set of endings. So the endings we already know. It's just we have to make sure we make the stem change when we go to conjugate these verbs. So let's take a look. And we're going to do the verb here on page 87, actividades analíticas. Number 1, the verb poder. Very important verb. It means to be able to, can, or could. Okay? I can, you can, he can. How do I say that? Well, it's the verb to be able to, poder. So to get the stem of poder, we would drop the ER and it would be pod, right? But it's a stem changer. So the O goes to UE. UE is pronounced like ue. So it becomes puede, puede. So now let's go and look at this verb, and here it is. Yo puedo. I put an O on because we know that that's the ending in the present tense for all verbs. What about tú? It's an ER verb, so it's going to have an ES ending on it. What's the stem though? It's going to be puede. So there's a stem change with the O form, puede, with the tú form, puede, and there's a stem change also with the LAN usted form, puede. You just got to learn this. This is what it does. The stem changes for yo to LAN usted. All right. And then just add on the correct ending, which we already learned, usted puede. So it's not usted puede, it's not tú puedes, it's not yo puedo. You've got to change the O to a UE. Everybody see this. And there's only 3 or 4 verbs we're going to have like this. So poder is typically followed by a verb in the infinitive form. So it's can you eat? Can you study? Can you run? So let's take a look. A veces yo puedo estudiar. Sometimes I can, yo puedo, study. You don't conjugate the second verb. I can study. A veces yo puedo estudiar. Here's a question. Puedes. Right away I can tell. You're asking you it's a you question. Can you? An ES ending means you. Can you llegar? Can you arrive at 11 o'clock? How do I say 11 o'clock? Las 11. So can you, at 11 o'clock, puedes llegar a las 11? Can you arrive at 11? And then here's a response. Graciela puede correr. Graciela can run very fast. So poder is a great verb to know. It is a little weird because it has that stem change. Now, let me explain one thing. In the nosotros form, there is no stem change. So we can is nosotros pod. There's no stem change. You keep the old stem and the ending would be hemos, right? Nosotros podemos, we can. What about they? There is a stem change, so it's ellos pueden. Ustedes pueden. There is a stem change. So the only place we don't have a stem change is with nosotros. Okay, let's see. Here they just talk a little bit about poder and how to pronounce it. I already showed you, but you can take a look at that. And let's go down here. Let's see. Okay. Um, okay, let's take a look at number 3 under actividades analíticas on page 87. Poder is a stem changing verb. Okay, these stem changes. In this particular type of stem changing verb, the O of the stem changes to UE in all forms except for nosotros. It doesn't do it in vos and vosotros, but we're not using those. So the only time it does it, that's what they want you to know. Here are some other verbs with that stem changing. Oh, please pay attention. Almorzar. Okay, the O will change to a UE. Almuerz, dormir, to duerm, and soñar, to dream, sueño. Just so you know. So let's take a look. Jose almuerza a la una. Again, it's not almuerza, it's almuerza. The endings we already know. A is the ending for the LA form of the verb. ¿Cuántas horas duermes? Duermes. Right away I can say do you. It's got an ES ending, and it's not dormes, it's duermes. Remember, we always have a stem change in the yo, the tú, the el, ella, usted, and the ellos and ustedes form. The only time we don't have a stem change is in the nosotros form. Here's another one. Sueñas todas las noches. Do you dream every night? Okay. And so here's some that you can do. I have lunch is yo, instead of almorz is your stem. Now our new stem is almuerz, UE, almuerz. It sounds like where. Almuerz, yo almuerzo. Yo, now it's not dorm, it's yo duerm, like worm. So yo duermo. And then yo, not soña, but sueña. Yo sueño. Okay. But the nosotros form does not have a stem change. So it's nosotros almorzamos, nosotros dormimos, and nosotros soñamos. Again, nosotros does not have the stem change. I think that's it. Please look through some of these exercises. And then finally, let's jump to page 89, the last part of grammar. And here they want us to learn how to say this and that. This here and that over there. Okay, so how do we say that? And those are your demonstrative adjectives. Yes, they're adjectives, so they have to agree in gender and number with the nouns they modify. So you got to look at, are you saying this book, book is masculine, or this pen, pluma? Okay, so you have to have then a masculine this or a feminine this. Also, what about that pen, that book? Again, is book masculine? The book is masculine, so you have to have a masculine that. If you have that pen over there, you have to have a feminine that, because pluma, if we're using pluma. So we must be aware of the gender. And finally, number. Adjectives have to agree in gender and number. So are we saying this book or these books? So again, now you can see that our demonstrative adjectives can be feminine and masculine and singular and plural. So there's 4 ways to say this. This book, these books, okay, that book, those books. We have a singular masculine way and a plural masculine way. So let's take a look at actividades analíticas. And these are on page 90. So let's look at how do we say this, these? Okay. How do we say this and these? Okay. Esta, estos, and estas are demonstrative adjectives. Okay. That's how we say this or these right here. They indicate that something is close or not nearby. This pen, these pens, this book, these books. Okay. In the same way you would use English this or these. Now we also have ese, esa, esos, and esas. Those are also demonstrative adjectives. They refer to something farther away. That or those over there. Real simple. So let's take a look. Uh, so this, so we want to talk about this backpack. So it's this back, look at mochila. It's feminine and singular. So it's going to be esta mochila. Okay. Esta is the feminine form of this. Esta mochila. Now, what if I have a book right near me? I would say this book. Book is masculine. So now it's este means this book. Everybody see that? It's going to be on your test. They're going to give you some nouns and they're going to have you say this or that. You just got to tweak it according to the gender and number. Let's look at the next one. Me gustan esas revistas. Okay, now we want to use those magazines over there. So revista is feminine and plural, so it's esas revistas. Okay, let me see. So again, all of your demonstrative pronouns are laid out in number one for you. You just have to match them up in the right circumstance. Okay. So again, let's take a look at the chart here. Demonstrative adjectives. And so, um, okay, so we've got, all right, so here they give us a chart and they must agree with the noun that they modify both in number and gender. Complete the following chart by correctly writing the demonstrative adjectives in the charts. So on the top line, they want the things near to you. This book, este libro, it's masculine. But if it's many books, it's estos libros. Okay? These books, they're close to you. Now, what if the book is far away from you? Then it would be ese, ese, ese libro. And if it's many books that are far away from you, those books would be eses. Okay? I'm sorry. Esos. E-S-O-S. Okay? Esos libros. And they're up again. They lay them out for you. Excuse me, I didn't mean to flip through all of this. They lay them out in number one. There they are. Okay? Uh, este, esta, estos, estas, ese, esa, esos, esas. Okay, so let's go back down here. So that book would be ese libro, and those books over there would be esos libros. Okay, now if the class is near you, now we have a feminine noun, esta clase, this class. And if it's plural, estas clases. Remember on your exam, if they want you to say this or that, you got to make sure if it's masculine, note whether the noun that you're referring to is masculine or feminine, singular, plural. Now, what if the item that's feminine is far away from you? Then it would be esa clase. And if it's plural, esas clases. Okay. All right. So I think this is very easy. On your exam, they're going to give you an example where a person has a backpack with things in it, personal items. The personal items are close to them. So you would be doing this or these. And then they're going to say, and then describe the articles that are not personal effects that are far away. And so you're going to use uh, that or those. Okay, so take a look at the exercises that follow and make sure you can use the demonstrative uh, adjectives. This, these, that, those. In English, it's a little simpler because we don't have masculine, feminine. We just have singular and plural. And fortunately, in Spanish, we get four forms. So if it's this book right here near me, it's este libro, this pen right near me, esta pluma. If it's these books near me, estos libros. And if it's these pens right near me, estas plumas. And if they're over there, the books over that book over there would be ese libro, it's masculine. If it's a pen and it's way over there, esa pluma. If it's those books over there now, it changes to esos libros. And if it's, again, feminine and plural, those pens over there would be esas plumas. Okay. And I think that's about it. It seems like there was quite a bit of material today, but I've tried to focus on what's important. Again, on uh, your chapter test, you're going to have to write a small 6 or 7 sentence little essay describing things like you like to do during the week on a specific day. Maybe tell me what time you do some of the things. Maybe talk about a friend, what they like to do. Okay. Um, so what do you do? Yo estudio a las 7 de la mañana. I study, or yo voy a la escuela. I go to school at such and such a time. Or yo practico fútbol. Los viernes. I practice soccer on Fridays, los viernes. You can even tell me the time. Um, and again, remember how to answer a question, ¿a qué hora? ¿A qué hora means at what time is the event? ¿A qué hora es la clase? ¿A qué hora es el partido de fútbol? At what time is the soccer game? Okay. ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? Or ¿a qué hora trabajas? Okay. I want to know at what time do you work? You're going to answer, I work at, and then give me the time. Yo trabajo a, and then give me the time. Las dos or a la una. Okay, so whenever you're asked an a que hora question, answer back with a and then the time. If somebody asks you que hora es, they just want to know what time it is now. And so you would say es la una, or for any other time from 2 to 12, son. And make sure that you're able to say 5:30, las 5:30, 11:15, las 11:15 o las 11:15, 5 after 11, las 11:05. Remember, we can add on the minutes with e, and then we add on the number of minutes. And I think that does it for chapter 3. There was quite a bit of material there, but please take your time going through it. Okay. Let's see. And then